We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate ONGC Sea Survival Centre in Goa, will inaugurate India Energy Week 2024 and meet CEOs of global oil giants. US President Joe Biden threatens veto of US House's stand-alone Israel aid bill. King Charles, diagnosed with cancer, will postpone duties and undergo treatment. India will take on host South Africa in semi-final of the Under-19 World Cup today. And on to details now. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of projects worth over 1330 crore rupees in the public program in Goa. Prime Minister to inaugurate ONGC Sea Survival Centre, developed as one-of-a-kind integrated sea survival training centre to advance the Indian sea survival training ecosystem to global standards. It is expected to train 10,000 to 15,000 personnel annually. Exercises in simulated and controlled harsh weather conditions shall enhance sea survival skills of trainees and thus potentially increase the chances of safe escape from real-life disasters. Also, Prime Minister will inaugurate the permanent campus of National Institute of Technology, Goa, to the nation. The newly built-up campus has various facilities to cater to the needs of students, faculty and staff of the institute. Prime Minister will dedicate the new campus of the National Institute of Water Sports. The institute will introduce 28 tailor-made courses aimed at fostering the development of water sports and water rescue activities, catering to both the public and the armed forces. Prime Minister will also inaugurate a 100 TPD integrated waste management facility in South Goa. Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone for passenger ropeway connecting Panaji and Rice Magos. Foundation stone for the construction of a 100 MLD water treatment plant in South Goa will be laid by him. Further, he will also distribute appointment orders by 1930 new government recruits and also hand over sanction letters to beneficiaries of various welfare schemes. Well, India Energy Week 2024 is expected to be a groundbreaking event that stands as the epitome of India's commitment to shaping the future of energy. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will kickstart the event on the 6th of February. Our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya has more on this.
Focusing on achieving energy self-reliance, India Energy Week 2024 emerges as the nation's largest comprehensive energy exhibition and conference. Aiming to catalyze India's energy transition, it will feature a roundtable with global oil and gas CEOs led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. With 17 energy ministers, 35,000 plus attendees and 900 plus exhibitors, it hosts dedicated country pavilions and a Make in India pavilion emphasizing innovative solutions by Indian MSMEs in the energy sector.
I invite you to explore our transformative solutions, engage in insightful discussions and witness firsthand how Indian Oil is leading the charge towards a more sustainable future.
Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate ONGC's Sea Survival Centre as well. Designed to train 10,000 to 15,000 individuals annually, the facility utilizes simulated harsh weather conditions to enhance trainees' sea survival skills, ultimately improving their ability to safely navigate real-life disasters. In just 2 years, India Energy Week has set itself apart, fueled by India's robust economic credentials and a thriving investment climate.
Delegates from more than 100 countries will converge at the India Energy Week, creating a truly global gathering. Policymakers, business leaders and stakeholders will unite to collaborate, explore opportunities and enhance partnership. With camera person Ajit, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Goa.
Well, India is making pioneering innovations to fast-track clean energy transition. The ethanol blended petrol program is saving $4 billion annually, reducing import dependence and leading the way to a cleaner future. India's aim to reach net zero emissions by 2070 is a significant step to fight against climate change. Our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya with more details.
India's green revolution unveiled. From power deficient to power sufficient, India is leading the charge towards a cleaner, greener future. With a pledge to achieve net zero emission by 2070, the nation is making groundbreaking strides in renewable energy. In a game-changing move, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the E20, a blend of 20% ethanol with petrol, marking a key step in the ethanol blending petrol program. This is not only reduces the import dependence, but also saves $4 billion annually. The Global Biofuel Alliance is at the forefront, expediting the global uptake of biofuels through policy lessons sharing and technology advancements. The National Biofuels Coordination Committee introduces the CBG blended obligation, aiming to stimulate the demand in the city gas distribution sector. The CBO is set to attract investment of over $4 billion, paving the way for 750 projects by 2028-2029. Join the revolutions India is evolving, and partnership forged at the events like India Energy Week are propelling the nation towards a future powered by clean, green fuel. With Camera Person Energy, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from India Energy Week in Goa.
And India's Prime Minister invoked his 2024 election campaign slogan of Modi's guarantee to promise that in his third term, the country will become the third largest economy in the world. In his reply to the motion of thanks to the President's address in the country's lower house of parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, Prime Minister Modi said that his government has fulfilled the promises it had made to the nation 5 years ago, from aggregation of Article 370 and passage of Women's Reservation Bill to legal reforms and construction of a Ram temple at Ayodhya. Take a look at the next report.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday replied to the motion of thanks to the President's address in the country's lower house of parliament, that is the Lok Sabha. Slamming the Congress party, the Prime Minister said that unlike the erstwhile government, the ruling BJP-led NDA government had achieved what it promised.
आज आपके सामने विश्वास से खड़े हैं, इस पवित्र सदन में खड़े हैं, और मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं कि 30 साल हम नहीं लगने देंगे। ये मोदी की गारंटी है, मेरे तीसरे कार्यकाल में देश दुनिया की तीसरी आर्थिक शक्ति बन जाए।
Prime Minister Modi invoked his 2024 election campaign slogan of Modi's guarantee to promise that in his third term, the country will become the third largest economy in the world.
आज 5 पर पहुंच गए और आपको क्या हो गया? कांग्रेस के लोगों ने नया मोटर मैकेनिक का काम सीखा है, और इसलिए अलाइनमेंट क्या होता है उसका ज्ञान तो हो गया होगा, लेकिन मैं देख रहा हूं अलायंस का ही अलाइनमेंट बिगड़ गया।
The PM recounted his government's achievements in the last 5 years.
हम सब ने 370 खत्म होते हुए देखा। इन्हीं माननीय सांसदों के आंखों के सामने और उनके वोट की ताकत से 370 गया। भगवान राम न सिर्फ अपने घर लौटे, बल्कि एक ऐसे मंदिर का निर्माण हुआ जो भारत की महान सांस्कृतिक परंपरा को नई ऊर्जा देता रहेगा।
He said that unlike the opposition that has lost the will to fight elections, the BJP will come back to power after the 2024 elections with an even bigger mandate.
देश का मिजाज एनडीए को तो 400 पार करवा ही के रहेगा, लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी को 370 सीट अवश्य देगा। बीजेपी को 370 सीट और एनडीए को 400 पार।
The PM also spoke about the lawmakers and people alike as to what to expect from his third consecutive term in office. Prime Minister Modi used his address also to highlight his government's welfare measures that benefited the poor, women, youth as well as farmers. Bureau Report, DD India.
And India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar met his Swiss counterpart Ignacio Cassis at Hyderabad House in the capital, New Delhi. The two leaders discussed ways to further strengthen the bilateral ties after celebrations of the 75th year of the India-Switzerland Friendship Treaty last year. They also exchanged perspectives on regional and international issues, including the conflict in Ukraine. Also, Switzerland's foreign minister gifted mission to the sun swatch to his Indian counterpart. And India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar on Monday held talks with Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji in New Delhi. They spoke about enhancing the mutual partnership, fostering stronger people-to-people connections, promoting collaborative efforts in development, and reinforcing their commitment to multilateral cooperation. And a parliamentary delegation from Suriname, led by Chairman of the National Assembly of Suriname, Marinus B., called on President of India, Draupadi Murmu, at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Monday. Welcoming the delegation, President Draupadi Murmu said that parliamentary exchanges are important as they provide an opportunity for interaction between two democracies. Early on Monday, the delegation held talks with Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. The Speaker of Lok Sabha, Om Birla, gave information about Lok Sabha elections this year and called elections as India's democratic festival. Marinus B. expressed happiness on his visit to India and described India as a great democratic country. And the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, in its latest interim economic outlook, raised India's growth outlook for the financial year 2024-25 to 6.2% from 6.1% estimated earlier in its November outlook. For financial year 2026, OECD has kept its growth forecast for India unchanged at 6.5%. Well, the administration of India's Himalayan state, Uttarakhand, approved the draft of the Uniform Civil Code, or UCC, on Monday. In a meeting chaired by State Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, the draft was approved and it will now be tabled during a special session of the State Assembly scheduled for the 6th of February. UCC aims at treating all sections of the society equally, irrespective of their religion. Currently, personal laws of various communities are governed by their religious scriptures. The draft will become in law once the State Assembly passes it. The Uttarakhand will become the first state of India to implement the Uniform Civil Code. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India and the 43rd meeting has approved various amendments to streamline food safety and standard regulations in India. After the amendments, the food businesses would not have to go to different authorities for mandatory certification. Now, only FSSAI certification has been made mandatory for food products. India's Union Health Minister, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, lays the foundation stone of 4 nursing colleges virtually in Andhra Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. He also inaugurated the newly constructed building of the National Dental Commission in New Delhi. Speaking at the event, the minister said that the Indian government aims to provide affordable and accessible healthcare for all. India's Border Security Force troops apprehended a Pakistani national near the international border in a village of Tarn Taran, district of Indian state of Punjab. The apprehended 16-year-old revealed himself to be a resident of Kasur in Pakistan. One mobile phone and Pakistan currency have been recovered by the security force. Indian Coast Guard ship Varaha, an offshore patrol vessel, is on a 3-day visit to Kenya as part of the overseas deployment of Indian Coast Guard ships to Africa. The primary objectives of this visit are to strengthen long-standing diplomatic ties, enhance maritime cooperation and promote interoperability with the Kenya Coast Guard services and other maritime agencies. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Aiming to expedite negotiations on a normalization deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken holds meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Farmer protests continue to grip Europe, with Italy facing intense protests even as situation eases in France and Germany for now. South Korea to face lowest rank to Jordan in the AFC Asian Cup semi-final in Al Rayyan city of Qatar today. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Saudi Arabia at the start of his West Asia tour on Monday. He met Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Washington is trying to expedite negotiations on a normalization deal between the kingdom and Israel and make progress on talks with post-war Gaza governance. Blinken will also visit Egypt, Qatar, Israel and the Israeli-occupied West Bank this week. He will push the Egyptian and Qatari-mediated conversations with Palestinian Hamas terrorists on a deal to free Israeli hostages held in Gaza. Well, Russia accused U.S. President Joe Biden of carrying out strikes in Iraq and Syria as the presidential election campaign is heating up on Monday. At the meeting of the Security Council on the strikes, Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia said there was no justification for the U.S. action. The U.S. initiated airstrikes against Iran's Revolutionary Guard and allied groups following the death of 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan, blaming Iranian-backed militias.
Washington continues to sow chaos and destruction in West Asia, the biggest operation of the U.S. in the region since 2003, presented by Joe Biden as an act of retaliation for an attack of the use of an unmanned aerial vehicle of unconfirmed origin on the American base that is illegally in Syria, has no justification. We see in these flex their muscles attempt, first of all, a desire to influence the domestic political landscape in America, a desire to somehow correct the disastrous image of the current American administration on the international arena as the presidential election campaign is heating up.
Meanwhile, Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, justified the U.S. strikes in Syria and Iraq under Article 51 of the founding UN Charter, which covers the individual or collective right of states to self-defense against armed attack.
Let me be clear. The United States does not desire more conflict in a region when we are actively working to contain and de-escalate the conflict in Gaza. And we are not seeking a direct conflict with Iran. But we will continue to defend our personnel against unacceptable attacks.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden's administration said on Monday he would veto a standalone bill backed by House of Representatives Republicans that would provide aid to Israel as the White House pushes for a broader measure providing assistance to Israel and Ukraine and providing new funds for border security. Officials from the Democratic president's administration have been working with Senate Democrats and Republicans on legislation. The $118 billion spending measure also would provide humanitarian assistance to civilians affected by global conflicts. Well, U.S. President Joe Biden told reporters on Monday that he was disappointed over Dreamers being left out of a bipartisan border security bill headed to a U.S. Senate vote this week. Asked during a visit to Las Vegas about the bill, Biden also said he hoped the House Speaker Johnson pays attention to what the Senate is doing. The bill is likely to dash hopes for a quick, clear path to citizenship for hundreds and thousands of people brought into the U.S. illegally as children as Congress takes a harder line on immigration. Republicans are bitterly divided over the issue, with Donald Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson loudly voicing opposition. Well, U.S. President Joe Biden is hoping for another strong showing in the Nevada primary contest on Tuesday, following an overwhelming win in South Carolina. Republican voters in the state are also choosing their candidate this week, but it's causing confusion. Let's hear from U.S. correspondent Nick Harper for more updates.
The southwestern state of Nevada is the second U.S. state to pick which Democrat they want leading the fight for the White House this November. Incumbent President Joe Biden faces no meaningful challenge, but turnout will again be watched closely as a sign for how much enthusiasm there is for the president. He's faced criticism in recent months about his age, now 81, and for his handling of the economy, immigration, and conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. All of that has meant low approval ratings that have dogged his campaign. But the first state primary vote on Saturday in South Carolina saw Biden capture more than 96% of the vote. His team are hoping for similar strong support in Nevada. However, he struggled to rally black and Hispanic communities there, the very voters who helped to get him elected back in 2020. Some are skeptical of the president's achievements during the last 3 years. That said, there's even less competition for Biden in this state contest. Democratic lawmaker Dean Phillips, who's challenging Biden, has been unable to get enough support to get on the ballot in Nevada. In South Carolina, less than 2% of voters picked him in Saturday's primary. Republicans in Nevada are also voting this week, but for the first time the state is holding two contests, a primary vote on Tuesday and a caucus vote on Thursday. And the candidates could choose only one contest to take part in, which means former President Donald Trump's name does not appear on Tuesday's ballot, but his challenger for the Republican nomination, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's name does appear. And then in Thursday's caucus, Trump will be listed on the ballot papers, but Haley won't, leaving Republican voters scratching their heads and throwing up questions about how much the Republican results this week will really matter or even make sense. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Also, the King Charles III is being treated for cancer. Buckingham Palace announced on Monday it was diagnosed during the King's recent hospital treatment for an enlarged prostate. While that was judged benign, the King's spokesperson says doctors noticed a separate issue of concern, which subsequently testing confirmed was a form of cancer. Stuart Smith has more from Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace hasn't revealed what kind of cancer the King is suffering from, nor to what stage it's progressed, but the Palace said the King is feeling wholly positive about the care he's receiving. We know he's being treated as an outpatient, so on Monday was able to return to his residence in central London, Buckingham Palace, where he will continue with his duties as head of state, reviewing and signing important documents, attending those weekly meetings with the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, but on the advice of his doctors, avoiding public and ceremonial duties. The Prime Minister on Monday, when the news was made public, said he was wishing His Majesty a full and speedy recovery and that he has no doubt the King will be back to full strength in no time and that the country will be wishing him well. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
And Italian farmers protesting about red tape and cheap imports from outside the EU headed towards Rome in convoys of tractors on Monday. Farmers from agricultural regions such as Tuscany headed south towards the capital, flying the Italian flag and carrying handwritten signs with slogans including "No farmer, no food." They were expected to congregate on the outskirts of Rome pending further protests later in the week. The Italian farmers share many of the grievances expressed by their counterparts in other parts of Europe during a wave of protest over the past few weeks. Meanwhile, the protests have eased in France and Germany for now, but appear to be growing in intensity in other parts of the EU. And in sports, India will take on host South Africa in the semi-final of the Under-19 World Cup in Benoni today. Defending champion India has advanced into the last four stage following 5 consecutive wins in the tournament. The exciting young players have put up a fine all-round show to ensure team's dominance. 18-year-old Mushir Khan has lit up a tournament with 2 centuries and a half century. The batter has scored highest number of runs. Before the tournament, India had demolished South Africa in 2 consecutive ODIs of the Tri-Nation Series. However, a knockout game brings a different kind of pressure, and the first semi-final could be a battle between India's informed batters and South African bowlers. And Jordan will skip a slice of history when it faces South Korea in the Asian Cup semi-final in the Al-Rayyan city of Qatar. South Korea is expected to beat a Jordan side, which is the lowest ranked team left in the tournament. But Jordan held South Korea 2-2 in the group phase, while Jordan are playing in the first semi-final. South Korea looking up to advance and end a 64-year trophy drought in the Asian Cup. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.